Namaste, Galactic family, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Come on into this dimension. Come on into the IndigoAngel room. And essentially, I'm excited that you're here to dive into this topic of discussion today, as today I actually have a huge offering that I want to share with you regarding the history of the Lemurian implants. As I've been preparing the second part to the female implant system, which is what I came into initially, first identifying the more regression and Akashic record work that I did in the Lemurian timeline, working with the light matrices, the light templating, working with the original Golden Temple healing technologies of Lemuria through priestess and priesthood rites. And essentially, I had intuited a very detailed female implant system. So now essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking at the masculine templating, which I've designed an actual visual piece for us all to look at today as we kind of go through what particularly are these implants, what have I seen them look like, where have I seen them, and really kind of dive into all of the details of these etheric, Akashic, energetic, emotional, mental, ancestral, generational implants, all in which totally revolve around the original Ioni massacre that took place on this earth in Kauai, Hawaii, about 22,000 years ago, that ultimately resulted in a great sexual misery spell over the collective. In all ways in which you can define sexuality, the sacral energy. And so all of this is really brought forth by the first real core wounding that ultimately sabotaged the matriarchal tribal rulership on this earth. And it's interesting, many massacres then continue to ensue in Kauai, Hawaii, after this one particularly took place, but this was kind of the first one that went down in terms of the Hall of Records and was brought forth by the Guardian speaker, Aisha, or Ashayana Dean, which you guys may know from the Voyagers books and all of her incredible, amazing work that she's done. But ultimately, I've always really resonated with this particular memory. I have gone back extensively in my Hydra account of things and looked at it through the primordial serpent matriarchal lineage account. And so I do have differing variations of that memory. I think it's all still relative to those of us that came down through these particular ascended master race lines from this time. What happened in Kauai, Hawaii ultimately plagued and affected the gender twin sets. So the actual twin flames, the Maharic twin flames, the true twin souls that carried the 12th dimensional and the 12-strand DNA avatar bodies, the original beings of this. And what they had was they had strands 1 through 6 polarized, and then they had 7 through 12 matching DNA strands. So they were, or the dimensions that uphold the 7th dimensional human body, they're kind of looking across the spectrum of sight with one another, right? They're very like yin and yang. But in the higher dimensions, they are ultimately one soul, 7 through 12. So what happened in Kauai ultimately happened, the first original twin souls. This is what it targeted, essentially, through a great deception, a plan of great deception that came in and took over. But it also affected the ascended master race lines of this time, known as the Magi Grail King lines. These are the original bodies of the dragon body. Okay. I want to say also the serpent body as well, that these are seraphim lines, essentially, and that these were the true original burning ones. And so it didn't matter. Both men and women were considered of these particular king lines. And these were the actual descendants that were targeted in the massive deception from Toth. Toth has a lot to do with this story. Toth was considered a good guy. Toth was considered a bad guy. But essentially, for those of you that don't actually know the true stories of Toth and what actually happened, I mean, if you're just looking at it through the lens of the Emerald Covenant and this type of stuff, you're not going to get the full picture. You're not going to get the full history. But essentially, Toth was responsible for what was called the Luciferian Rebellion, which was where he just basically betrayed everyone who trusted them. Okay. And he had a lot on his shoulders, right? There was a lot that he was supposed to do as a scribe. There was a lot that he was supposed to do getting this ascension mechanic information in its pure form from the original plates, the original spiritual plates that came with this energy information inscribed into these wheels. Essentially, he was supposed to transmit that knowledge verbally because of the deception and the Decepticons that were taking place in literature at that time. So he rebelled against what he was asked to do, essentially. And what happened was that these Maji Grail King lines were very, very powerful. These were ascended master lines in Kauai, Hawaii. Essentially, they had the abilities, because they were these unified Maharic twins as well. They had the ability to open up what are the Amareya passages. So this is why Hawaii is so important at this time. And obviously, everything that I start diving into and activating to in terms of Gridworker technology and spiritual practices, it plays a part in for what is to be, what is to unsue, what is to become of the work that we're doing. And essentially, I've been seeing how important Hawaii is in terms of the rest of the world. There's nowhere like it in the world. Essentially, it is its own individualized universal chakra system within the Pacific Ocean. There are language and verbiage and customs and mannerisms that have transcended oppression through many, many years. But there is still a lot of trauma there. There is still fractalization of encapsulated trauma bodies in the grids. There's warfare in the grids. There's Holocaust in the grids. There's ethnic cleansing. There is rape and pillage. There is all kinds of stuff that's still basically circulating energetically through those fields that can be worked on, can be cleared, and that there are blockages there. I have seen blockages in the gate systems. And I think it all actually originally comes back to, again, the Ioni massacre. And so, again, Toth being this being that targeted these particular king lines because they had the ability to open up the Amareya passages and Stargate 6. Okay, Stargate 6 connects us into Sirius. And so this whole thing can connect us into then the Paladorian. It can connect us into the there's a light field spectrum that's in the Aurora fields. Okay, the Aurora fields. And those fields connect us into Andromeda. Okay, so this is the original incarnation passageway of our entire universal matrix. These beings, these ascended masters from this time had a plan at that time because they knew what was going on. They knew about the Dracos and the invader technology, and they essentially were working spiritually on behalf to uninstall planetary J seals and the Lemurian crystal takeover, where they've essentially coded these selenite networks and other crystal networks with these planetary implants, okay, planetary grid implants that run emissions of these distortions through the ley lines. So Toth actually got word that this was all going down, and he decided to stop them. How they were going to do this through the Amareya passage ways was through sound frequency. This was how they did it. And what they could do was they could activate, and then they could carry the wave for overriding the pillar gates. And then they could run that sound frequency into the planetary universal tree of life and clear all the inversions. They could clear the massive fracture and splits that were into the mother and father arcing systems, which I'm telling you, if you know about what plagues humankind in terms of disempowerment the most, it is usually from having extremely disoriented and fragmented and just messed up in all kinds of ways parental grooming, mother arc and father arc systems being basically damaged, okay, generationally, going back thousands of years. It actually takes us into it creates a phantom shadow parallel time matrix for us to ultimately live in. Creates this hologram of this lower world for people to live in for the majority of their life. These are not easy things to repair, and many of us, even at these high spiritual levels, have not fully repaired these arcing systems. But in this time, they were repaired. But this is kind of where they've plagued it in terms of the massacre. And so through that, we can essentially override and clear our false parent energies running in our field. This is probably the number one thing I see with people is that they hear voices that are not theirs all the time, that sit in the inner child and that sit in the subconscious and the heart and every part of them on a cellular level, that they believe what they've been programmed by the father and mother arcing systems that are degraded, basically. Okay. So the warfare in the Amareya passageways was over those arcing systems, right? And again, Toth got word of that. And essentially what they did was they forced the women and offered them that if you don't want your Mahark twin killed, you don't want them dead, then you need to come to Nibiru and Mars and breed with the Anunnaki because they needed breeders. Okay, and they did a lot within that. I spoke about this in the womb healing course in a lot of extensive detail, but they were digressive reptilian factions of the Anunnaki from this time. And essentially, they went into what they did when they took them to Nibiru is they went into the heart womb seed of the mother and they performed abduction. Okay, they took out her womb, they cloned it for replication with attempts to clone birthing Stargate system technologies. Okay, which they have successfully done. This stuff is playing out currently right now in false incubation, false wombs, hijacked womb gates, altered and inorganic womb gate systems, which they've done through the CRISPR technologies. It extends through the in vitro fertilization programs and also the surrogacy programs. And ultimately, they want to take, the birthing power away from the woman. That's, why we have these continual flare-ups of gender confusion, which is a tag. It's a tag system. It's a tag system that runs an inverted chakra system. Okay, so they essentially branded and banded and implanted the female womb and uterus with a circular ring implant clamp, and it restricted the capacity of creation quantum allowed to funnel through the Stargate systems. When we're talking Stargate systems, we're talking about the womb gate. And the ultimate goal is of restricting the spiritual capacity of the incarnate. So taking these original twins that could bring in more twins, could bring in more ascended souls, more ascended masters into the earth, and they degraded it to deem them breeder lines now. Okay, because they could manipulate and modify these types as well because of the pure genetic code. Okay, they wanted that pure genetic code for their hybridization programs. So I've talked a lot about the hybridization programs. if you guys haven't seen the video that I last did on this, I'm going to get to the male implant part in just a second, but there's so much to this, you guys, that there's just a lot I have to cover. So this is probably going to be a long video today. But let me share this with you really quick. If you want to just catch up on the work that I have done on this, you go back to about 10 months ago, and I put the Stargate repair Lemurian regression video out. I got about 6.5K views, so it did pretty good. It's really intense. This one is long as well, but I go through the feminine aspect of the plagued sexual reproductive system, also what's playing out ethically, generationally, ancestrally, what is the source of the female oppression due to patriarchal domination. And I just really talk about this in depth, in detail. I might go over some of it today, briefly. I'm not sure how much of it I'll get into. If you want to read about it, you can go over to my website at IndigoAngel222.com and go to my blog tab. And you just want to go to Stargate Repair, Lemurian Regression, Golden Temple Healing, the Womb Temple Implant, and Tag Removal. This is also a session that I offer as well. And you can find this for both the feminine and the masculine underneath my services tab. But essentially, this is the diagram that I had drawn up and worked on to graphically design, just to try to give a visual to what I see when I look into people's energy field. Okay, like how these distortions look to me ethically and in what they're holding. That are the descendants of these lines, Mary Magdalene lines, Goddess Isis lines, okay, Irish lines, West African lines, and in many different lines also here in the North Americas as well. And all over the world, Canada. I mean, Canada, I think they are running the pinnacle of the energetic networks that feed off of the fleur-de-lis implants, okay, because they have those Michael and Mary turnstiles up there, and essentially all of that funnels through control systems back to Stonehenge, which was where that original Nephilim breeder technology was installed as like an underground running siphoning system, basically, to degrade that all the way through UK and France and start those hybridization Nephilim lineages. So this goes back to the Nephilim as well. So yeah, I really recommend to go and read up on this, as I do go into a lot of detail about the Lemurian history and how it came about, how it came to be, went over the details of the Lemurian Holocaust, and just talk about all of the fragmentation and separating and fracturing of these timelines. I've always kind of said that we as a soul collective, a shared soul family, we have to bring back the spiritual technologies and healing principles of the Lemurian time. We have to go back to our original pre-state ascended master, integrate the healing technologies from that time, and start bringing that back, because this is what our true soul family needs. They need this particular type of healing technology because this is what our soul yearns for. This is where we originally learned how to be grid workers. This is how we originally learned how to live one with the true organic code in the land. So that's what I'm striving to do really with this particular healing session, and also by putting this information out. But yeah, put a big like on this video today. I know this is kind of a serious video. Comment below if you are familiar with the Ioni massacre, and share this out, because this is really, I think this is really important for men and women to have this information. I think this is what is at the core of what pins us against each other. As you know, we had that conversation with Sethicus on the channel the other day, and we kind of talked about, you know, where did this original parasitic invasion take place? And, you know, we talked about it coming from the womb gate, but truly, I think this was a parasitic invasion that happened in the reptilian brain cortex. Okay. And so it's been a invasion that pins male and female against one another, instead of looking at each of us as individuals and what core wounds did we acquire from the same massacre that was forced upon our soul bond, our soul tie. And so both sides fought very hard to save each other from what was happening at this time. Many of the women went to try and save their husbands. They went there because they believed that their counterparts would be saved if they went and did that. Okay, they were tricked. Everybody was tricked. And the males were slaughtered in the end anyway. They were not just slaughtered, they were castrated. Okay, and I do believe that this may be where circumcision comes from. But they were castrated, tortured, and then slaughtered, and had to watch that slaughtering, like as if they were pigs, you know, through the slaughter line type of thing. Okay, so this was a very traumatic thing that happened, and it forced this huge wounding of betrayal against men and women, which many of us deeply still suffer with this today. Okay, it's so these implants are really a bigger part of our emotional healing, our relationship healing, our healing of intimacy, our healing of sensuality, sexuality, how we can share ourselves with one another. But yeah, essentially this was the beginning of the forced breeder programs and also the great sexual misery spell that began over the collective that resulted in these implant systems connected to the core world wounding and the core world pain body, the core world suffering body, and tactics to disempower the soul and spirit body through our genitalia, our gender, okay, sexual organs. So when we're getting angry at these people that are going through gender confusion, we have to look at this and be like, this is a psyop. And this is something that they're falling victim to, just as if we're watching them being slaughtered in the Iani massacre. That's what we're watching. Okay, we're watching pure mutilation, which is what masochism is. And so, of their sexual organs, right? Everything revolves around the root. It revolves around the sacral, and it revolves around the solar plexus. This is where the lower carnal, predatorial, reptilian mind dwells in its fullest. And so this is where it is dominated. This is what is attacked, no matter what percentage of genetic reptilianness you have in you. They're going to go after your reproduction. They're going to go after your fertility. They're going to go after your endocrine and hormonal systems and your mental mind complex. So this really comes down through the power elite because they are funding the corruption, the negative invader lines, and satanic and Luciferian Tothians, okay, that were the ones that were the crooked priest. No, people don't want to really hear that. That's a hard pill to swallow, right? Because a lot of wisdom came through Thoth's teachings that people still use today. But essentially, it's conjured many deep forms of black magic through dark ritual abuse and the core world wounding of the original fall of man of Atlantis cataclysm too. Within many groups of brotherhoods throughout history, many groups have fallen victim to the Thothian groups. Okay, the GF, okay, the Jesuits, secret societies, the Freemasons, the indoctrinated school systems, our entire draconic law, okay, the Dagons, the Catholic priest, the religious Templars, the Knights Templars, okay, all of this, all the brotherhoods have been throughout history. In order to manipulate the collective through patriarchal domination, they have to manipulate first the masculine body. Okay, the masculine body is the first altered templating according to the invader races. And this is true if you simply just look at the outward expression of the male role in society and the expectations of the masculine role in the nuclear family dynamic, okay? Because if you just look at that, you can see that he is expected to lead and he is expected to hold the container for the feminine and teach his women and children. He's supposed to be the leader, right? I mean, not in America. Everything's 50-50 here. In most modern places, it is. But that was a concept that ensued for hundreds of years, that masculines were seen as, I mean, they're supposed to be seen as that. That is actually the traditional role. Okay. And so they need to implant and target the masculine template first to control the women and children. They've just been targeting the Magi male, indigo male, starseed male, from birth, essentially to receive many etheric lashings on the soul form, degrading and stripping his consciousness of his masculine principality. And there have been many attempts to modify this to manipulate the true divine masculine alpha, tribal, warrior, Mahark twin code, and break many lives of his spirit down systematically to keep him in a state of disempowerment. And this is why, you know, we have many different spectrums of where the masculine is within this, but they're all, whether they're angry or whether they're gentle, whether they're alpha, beta, sigma, omega, whatever that is, they're all processing an aspect of this implant system. Okay, so I want to talk about this because I think that this is really important. This is really imperative that we start to identify it in terms of etheric implants. Why? Because it can help us reach deeper layers of realization to remove it from ourselves. And that makes us stronger. That makes us more aware. New layers of awareness can come in. It makes us speaking more directly with the consciousness of our soul body, of our DNA, and utilizing, again, the original healing technology from that time, what we used to use to restore this. And ultimately to bring the divine feminine and the divine masculine more healed and back together more stronger, where we rely on one another again, right? Where we trust each other again, where we work really hard to restore what was taken. And so let me just go to my little diagram then, and please don't laugh at this. I'm sharing this with you guys. It's a work in progress. I am not finished with it yet. And it's real crazy, right? Because the guy has like a big old dong on him. And I just want you to know that we try to present that in a way that we could identify where implants were inside of the male genitalia. So in the prostate, in the testes, and also in the shaft. So we needed things to be big enough to able to draw lines for us to be able to see exactly what's supposed to be there. So yeah, I know it's kind of funny. But hey, you should see the female one. Like, let me go back to the female one that we did. And I mean, her uterus is ginormous, right? It's, I don't know where it is. I have to keep scrolling up. I was pretty far down there. But yeah, see how big her uterus and her vagina is? Like, we had to make it that big so that way we could see what's there. You know, we had to enlarge it. So the male is the same. Those of you who are mature enough to, you know, look over all of this information and not get crazy or get squirmy with it, like, it's life, right? Okay, this is what it is. And we want to talk deeper about what these implants are. Again, not all of them are on here. I did actually put this diagram up on my services because this session is now available for masculines. So if masculines, you feel called to do this session, to have these particular implants removed, if you feel like you have them, I am going to go over them and what they are in more detail here with you guys. So that way you can really, truly, fully understand what they all mean. But the first one that really I started to notice was, I'm calling it the Dawn of Time emotional seal. So it's this one here in green, pointing to the heart. And this one is like an elite Illuminati mind control and concealing of the emotional body. So this seal has many levels and layers in which it is seated in the consciousness of the masculine mind and heart complex. This seal is passed on generationally. This seal is also located in the testicles. okay, because it comes down through the semen, that there's fragmentations, there's things that carry through. And it also comes down through the soul monadic universal tree of life. It comes through a blood covenant, generationally taken, binding them, and also reinforced societally, environmentally, and through grooming tags as well. So this seal is a global grid seal of black magic over the masculine collective. Okay, this was a Tothian seal. Okay, and this one was casted through that black magic through the obelisk network. So you can see I have a line here drawn to the obelisk that they are modifying the Vesica Pisces geometric technology here in Washington, D.C. One of the things that we are looking forward to correcting when we go there. So the door is still open to come to Washington, D.C. If you guys feel called to come to Washington, D.C., please go to my coursework tab at IndigoAngel222.com and scroll down to the Washington, D.C. event. I will leave the links also in the description. But essentially, this is where it's anchored into the earth. So this Dawn of Time emotional seal connects into the obelisk network. And it's where they're blocking the ability to connect more profoundly and intuitively with the emotional body individually and planetarily. This is one of the leading seals supporting the patriarchal domination control structures, like energetic cords linking seals in the body to obelisk networks globally. So men are actually, those that have the seal are coded to those obelisk systems. They're like transmitters into their body, into their heart. Typically, the seal is on behind the visuals of the eyes, so they can have it behind the eyes as a veil, and it will really affect how they see themselves in the physical world. It's also on the heart, and blocking the perception of the first eye. Okay, the first eye is which one truly sees first, not the third eye, right? It's through the heart, it's through the eye of the heart. And that's why when I even do sessions with people and they may be feeling like their vision's not that good, I just tell them, tell me what you feel. Your feeling is your first eye. What you feel in your heart, that's seeing. So as soon as you start to just link those together, it opens up more vision of the third eye. This seal also is in the ears. Okay, so what it does in the ears is it acts as a feedback sound loop that rejects emotional tones in the ears and disallows it from going into the body and into the heart. Okay, and so men can have this at many, many different layers. You know, if you have a divine masculine in your life who is very emotionally void, has a very difficult time connecting to emotions, cannot counter your emotions, cannot speak with or compromise with your feminine intuition, most likely he has this seal. Okay, if men are very disconnected from the feminine, from connecting with them, and they feel like they've just maybe even given up, they quit trying, it's probably because they have this seal. The seal has to be removed, acknowledged, essentially. This seal incurs massive amounts of chastisement because this seal is like a disease in the heart. Okay, it actually creates disease in the heart. Why do you think men, besides the fact that they consume horrible modified foods and junk food and beer and who knows what, it's causing heart disease? It's the number one leading cause of death in males. Okay, this seal is a part of that. Okay, it causes a deep internal grievance, which occurs because they are false to themselves. They've been blocked from being able to feel themselves, which isn't their fault. Like, again, this is Tothian black magic that's come down from their forefathers, and it disallows them from feeling their true feelings, their needs, their wants, and the desires of the true divine masculine heart. They're not allowed to which have. So it creates a lot of different types of blockages that continue to feed off of that. So that's kind of a big one and a very important one to have removed if you feel like you have this implant. Another one that I was seeing and spoke about with the video that we did with Laura Eisenhower, which I was so excited to have her on the channel. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Yeah, put something down in the comments if you think I should ask Laura to come back on the show. Oh, it'd be so awesome to continue to just dive in with her, especially on DC, because if she knows a lot about DC, which clearly she does, you know, it would be really cool to break that down with her. But essentially, I've been seeing estrogen implants. Okay, so this is an energetic holographic implant. You can see them here. I kind of just put them off to the side here. This implant is accumulation of toxins and an over inundation of artificial estrogen hormones that form in areas of the male body, such as the testes, the brain, the endocrine and glandular system, the chest and brain tissue. They can be seen as implants, even though it usually looks like cloisters or clusters of geometries of 6 sides backing up in the DNA in the body. So it looks like false estrogen. It looks like a false hologram or overlay of these fake hormones. Okay, and it's acquired from the outside environment, the new age modern genetically modified diets, overconsumption of dairy modified animals, exposure to plastics, BPA, bioweapons, needlecraft technology, big pharma, government regulations, against heirloom seeds, and just societal disconnection from nature, period, nurture, tribalism, okay, severe fractured root chakras, any form of an organic lifestyle that best suits the human being's existence. So while the body is breaking down the physical overprocessing of artificial estrogen, the spirit and the light body and the energetic field also is struggling as a spiritual immune system to regenerate due to those implants. So as a healer and as a facilitator, it's best to remote into the body internally, look at the DNA in and around those areas that would accumulate the estrogen implants, such as the testes, the brain, the endocrine, glandular system, and breast tissue, and just run gentle recalibrations here in these energetic bodily spaces and remove these implants. By the way, in September, I am going to be teaching an implant and seal removal certification course that is going to be J seal removal, Draco seal removal, and both the Lemurian regression, implant and tag removal for feminine and masculine bodies. So that will be certification program September. I'm really looking forward to it. I just haven't got it up yet, but if this is something you think you want to do, just be sure to sign up for my website newsletters. So that way you get notified when that certification comes out. A lot of people have been asking me for this for a long time, and I'm finally ready to get everything together to do it. Putting together this masculine template was the final piece to it. So I'm almost ready to rock and roll with this one. But yeah, this estrogen implant can be deeply connected to shame, self-loathing, laziness, indifference to the self, causing deeper fracturing and creating more walls of separation within the root chakra. These implants seem to affect the impotence and also can be a big reason for erectile dysfunction of the male body intimately through sexual performance, which can significantly diminish his personal empowerment and success in life. And that's a big one for guys, right? It's embarrassing and it's makes them feel not very good about being a man. So, you know, there's all these like little underlying things as to why the masculine is struggling to rise up in their empowerment. They're disempowered in a lot of ways. And so I just really think it's up to us who are in the space to create these types of healings to be able to offer this. I mean, this is something that me and Felix have been talking about for some time as well. He's been seeing this in the male body for a long time. I'm actually going to have him on the show, but we might touch on this together just a little bit because he sees this as well, and just maybe in a little bit of a different way. He can explain from a different angle, actually. So what you see here is the King of Tyranny implant on the guy's crown. And if you look really close to it, you can see their little fleur-de-lis on the crown. Okay, there's a reason for that. Now, this is the false King of Tyranny implant. Okay, so this one is about dictatorship, absolute power, root chakra. Okay, it's on the crown, but this also ties down into the root chakra and implants into the prostate. And that plugs them into the controller predatorial archetypal mental body through that crown, which links them into a trail of destruction, rape, and pillage. And this one was installed in the second cataclysm of Atlantis. I can see holograms of this being projected through the 7th and the 1st J seal. Okay, it's being projected through the crystal technology. This is the direct implant that ensues the war of enslavement over mankind. Those implanted with the false King of Tyranny are generally rewarded monetarily with status, with power, with big fame over the rest of the underlings on the earth. And this implant can also be in females as well, but it is most predominantly in its males. Now, all of the elite, all of the power Illuminati are carrying the false King of Tyranny implants. Okay, they created them. This implant was placed through the Orion Stargate on the Earth and funnels back to a world pillar of power. So this one also connects into the Obelisk network, but it's also an artificial hijacking of the planetary rod. Okay, and it looks like an actual anti-life holographic rod inserted into the planet that connects us into the Wesadex systems and the fall systems and the Saturnian matrices and black magic grids. This implant was placed through technological AI mind control and a parasitic invasion of the reptilian brain cortex, which runs subconscious predatorial mindsets. This implant continues to divide and conquer the human population. This is the implant of our time, you guys. This is what keeps everything the way it is. And men who carry this, okay, will have very self-serving levels of intimacy and relationships. If the implant, it is the implant responsible for narcissistic templating, if not removed. Okay, and it can develop into this mental field structure. This implant tracks devices installed for force breeder tracking programs and alien hybridizations. Okay, so if you've been a part of the hybridization programs and you've been tracking particular female bloodlines for force breeder programs, because this would activate the reptilian gene code in the brain. Okay, so you can actually go in and out of being aware of this. It's really crazy like that. It's not anything to be shameful about. It's just to acknowledge that this is what's running in the collective mind wave fields. Like, this is a real thing that we're up against. This is like what we have to do. We have to get out of denial about this stuff and really speak to it, right? There's also the Medusa's gaze implant. This was one that I seen the other day. And I realized that there is a huge bulk of the Magi males that have basically, they've been scorned and they've been judged by Medusa's glare. Okay, multiple accounts and encounters of several Medusa archetypes. It's where they continually call in and forward, manifesting divine feminines that are in the depth of their wounding, carrying hatred seeds towards the masculine. So they basically will, they'll stone them. They will stone these men. They will take them through this deep emasculation process and eventually stone them with her wrath. Okay, so if a masculine has had multiple encounters with several Medusa archetypes leading into very traumatic and damaging situations, almost to the point that this male has PTSD when it comes to women, they actually intentionally avoid all type of interaction with women, eye contact with women. They don't want to give off any sort of subtlety of sexual cues, very guarded, extremely guarded. A lot of times it's because they have the Medusa's gaze implant. Okay, so Medusa's archetype is living and it's activated on this earth. And there's a reason for it. It's actually teaching the masculine a lot of lessons. But there is this counter side to it where it's also, I think once they learn what they needed to learn from the situation, they want to remove the implant basically, so that way they don't keep calling it forward and they can continue to restore and to heal and to call forward like their true whole divine soul union. Okay, their true divine counterpart to heal these parts of them, so that way they can have successful Maharic twinning experiences or soul unions or Trinity unions, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the true Hieros Gamos union within yourself, even. That's what the goal should ultimately be. But another thing to address is how in this inverted and perverted world, the masculine body truly and genuinely carries all dark and distorted aspects of sexuality. This is where it is held. It's in the masculine sexual collective body. Okay, women carry perversions and inversions in theirs as well, but not to the degree that the masculines do. There's even things on here that I didn't even put on here that are coming to mind now, like pedophilia implants. Okay, pedophilic target tags, right? To be as young boys. We'll just include that under like rape tags, rape and molestation implant tags. But some of the ones that I did cover were the hedonistic Bilal implants. So this particular implant will piggyback itself from the false king of tyranny implant. You can see it here with this hedonistic implant. With this implant promotes mental and lower astral architecture of lust, adultery, general deception, obsessions with porn, and lies, thievery, even in the lower three chakras, root, sacral, and solar plexus. This one is enmeshed and created in layers and layers of reversals and can come with the forms of entities and lesser lower spirits such as incubuses and succubuses. And the hedonistic implant essentially looks like this. But so this is one that really plays with the shadow. Okay, this one is definitely likes to come in and out of the living shadow in somebody's energy field. So finding this, identifying it, working through it, removing the Bilal implants, the hedonistic implant, and then integrating what's there and what needs to be restored. There's also porn implants. This one really disables the male's ability to focus their attention on meaningful and accurate, truthful things in their life. It's really about siphoning their focus and their attention and just pulling them away from mission. That's what it's doing. Just pulling them away from mission, pulling them away for what's important. It actually scatters the consciousness fields into these like sexual fragmentations. And it's really hard for them to then manifest anything because you really need the generation and the core power of your sacral body, okay, the purity of that and the ability to channel it up to the crown to be able to manifest. Okay, you need that sacred sexual energy. Okay, and when the consciousness is fragmented and scattered in lower density fields, it is harder for them to focus. It's harder for them to channel their energy and their intention. And most masculines that I've talked to, this one is something they've had to deeply overcome. You know, some of my most amazing spiritual male friends can admit that this was something that they've had to work really deeply hard to overcome. So we just include it in this implant and tag removal as deeper levels of bringing forward, overcoming that distraction and elite and just disgusting satanic black magic sexual spell that's been casted, right? That's basically what it is. There's also deeper levels of sexual misery implants and how these genetic distortions come into play with this, okay, through sexually transmitted diseases. So this implant is tied to that. It's tied to the shameful side that it can be really difficult for some to overcome spiritually and energetically and emotionally, health conditions that have needed additional healing to nurture this implant. Okay. This is for both men and women. I've had people, and I'm not going to say anybody, right? But I have seen people come forward and say, I've contracted this, or this has happened. I'm dealing with this. This is really, really hard. Like these really deep, irreversible, and life-changing things that happen. And so, yeah, it's just another layer of things as a spiritual practitioner that you do have to look at and take serious in the best interest of your client. And so removing the sexual misery implant should be very much considered if, you know, your client is looking for deeper healing in these areas, that this is something that is gone over, that it's energetically recalibrated, that it's realigned to the original divine templating, and it's rooted in restoring that disempowerment and that shame and that guilt. Okay, rape tags and implant tags. Rape tags and implants, men equally carry the rape tags as well. This can come down through all different kinds of ways. Okay, I'm not going to go over all the details, but it happens to guys as well. A lot of times it can be from older women, like older babysitter situations. It can be through other males. It's more likely to come through another male than it is actually to come through a female, but it does happen. And people can be, you know, their sexual experiences from a very early and young age can cause very long and distortions in their sexuality for the rest of their life. Confusion, again, gender confusion, we go back to this. Confusion over their sexuality, things like this comes back to these things, and to break that down and to be able to see it can help them to restore it. So yeah, this goes on and on and on. I think the one thing though that is most important to address for the masculine template would be the circumcision and black magic, satanic ritual abuse, ritual blood covenant wounding. I haven't even seen this so much as an implant. I've seen this more as a masculine overall blood sacrifice, satanic ritual abuse that removes the male infant foreskin. This is a form of SRA. So what is happening, okay, and this is just talking about this really truly makes me sad. This really breaks my heart. Like I'm feeling all kinds of emotions just come up through me right now talking about it, because the things that I've seen, the things that I've heard, what they're doing is they're binding the soul to Malak during circumcision. Okay. Ooh, that just gives me the chills. The blood that they spill from the baby marks a claim on the soul to be bound to the Malak entity that possesses a false god to lure humanity into servitude, binding in the afterlife. Okay, this came down through Abraham. This came down through the Abrahamic covenant. And the religious descendants, the Templars, and the people of Yahweh. And it was renewed on Mount Sinai. It was an actual like contract covenant before giving the law of circumcision to Israel, as a people pledged itself to keep this covenant. After the giving of the law of Moses sprinkled the blood of the covenant sacrifice of the circumcision, half upon the people and half upon the altar of the Lord, to signify the mystical union of Israel and its God, of this everlasting Sinaitic covenant between God and Israel. The Sabbath is declared to be the sign forever, and at the same time, the tables of the law upon which the pledge was made and were called the Book of the Covenant, and the 10 Commandments So this is where it gets really sick, is because circumcision is tied into the commandments. Now, this is one of the most significant spiritual wounds placed upon males. Okay, that I think we as women, I mean, we think about it and we think how horrific it is, but we don't run out to vouch for it. We don't run out to go to warfare for it. We don't rally for it. You know what I mean? And I think our males need us to support them in that, because it's truly cultural black magic spell that devalues the male human genitals and mutilates them. And it's been medically normalized due to the caduceus implant. So there's another implant that you want to remove here with this one. It has to be removed for more profound spiritual healing when working on circumcision, black magic, and SRA removal from someone's field. This procedure falls under a medical cult religion. So when the doctors do this to the infants, it releases a God power within them, which is an inverted and reversal false God ideology. Okay, and it's just sick. It's just sick. Okay. This black magic on male infant genital mutilation leads to deeper layers of unconscious and subconscious safety issues. Okay, deep distrust of the mother and the father. Okay, safety, big time. This really plagues those SRA passages of the mother and father arcing networks and systems. And it's essentially breaking an essential aspect of their human identity, leaving a lesser human behind. They do it to break part of the sexual power because they want your power. This is all about power. Everything here in terms of what this implant system even represents is over a warfare over power. The enslavement, the warfare of enslavement is over power. And so, yeah, it's pretty deep, you guys. I probably will be going into this more and more as I begin to offer these sessions and work more with masculines within this, as it always opens me up more to what's there, deeper levels, deeper meanings of these things. I can see more through the experiences of sharing the removal processes with others, and helps me to just get better and better at what I'm doing on my end with this. So again, if you are called to this session, you can go to my services tab at IndigoAngel222.com. I'll actually just leave a link down in the description. If you feel called to do this implant removal, it also comes with just a deep sacral clearing, working with the clearing of the universal tree of life, and just going through and systematically recalibrating the field holographically, architecturally, and bringing in through a lot of healing as well. There can be a lot of channeled messages that come through with this. And just overall, it's a way to kind of open up and go to deeper levels for the masculines when it comes to this type of work, because, you know, it can be difficult for people to find, I think, people willing to discuss these things at these levels, right? Even for the women, you know, this is a very detailed and intricate aspect of our history. It can help someone's reflection of seeing this deeper within us to see how extensively does this implant and tagging system go for us, and how deep do we want to work to really clear our field back to God's sovereignty and freedom. You know, that's the point of all of this, is getting our bodies lighter, getting our fields lighter, getting us less disempowered, overcoming the programming, the mind control, and realizing that it's not just about serving the higher dimensions, that really a lot of this here is in the 1, 2, and the 3. It's in the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus chakra. And so this is where we have to kind of come down in density. That's something that I even noticed too when I do some of this work. Sometimes people come in, they're so high, but with this particular implant system, we have to come down where it's really heavy and work through that energy. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think about this. I'm excited to bring it forward. It's definitely something I was a little bit nervous to bring forward because it is so graphic. you know? But I feel like it's really needed at this time. There's a reason why this is coming up right now. There's a reason why DC is coming up right now. There's a reason why Hawaii is getting activated. I know there's other groups right now taking trips down to Hawaii. It's to go to Kauai and to restore those masochist lands and start really taking our power back at these power points that can truly heal the grids and heal us, heal our souls, heal our human nature, our true nature, and nurture back to the new earth body. We have to hold the restored bodies of Lemuria to ultimately bring forth the new earth and wholeness. It's very important. That's what I keep seeing over and over. So that's the message I keep having. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I love you all so much, and I'll see you on the next show.